There we go. All right. Welcome, everyone. My name is Kate Larkin, and I'm the Council Relationship Manager for Nova Scotia Council.
Hi, I'm Justin. I'm the Scouting Relationship Manager for the Nova Scotia Council.
Awesome. So today we are going to talk to you about virtual volunteer recruitment and parental engagement.
Awesome.
I'm going to start. There we go. And share my screen. All right. All good, Justin? Can you see that?
I can see that.
Perfect. All right. So I'm going to move this here and we're going to start. So volunteer recruitment and onboarding is going to play a major part in the success of our council health plan and for many of our group health plans. So the current state of things is going to change the way that we approach volunteer recruitment. However, if we adapt our methods, we will be successful. Tonight, we're going to share some tips and methods that we can use during this time to continue the great work that we've already started and in ensuring that when programming gets up and running once again, our groups are stronger and more supported than ever. There we go. There are a few things that we can count on at the moment, but one of them is that we should be able one of the things that we should be able to count on is that most people will be home for the next while. This means that many parents and scouters may be available for a phone call when they otherwise wouldn't be. This does not mean, however, that we should assume that they always are available. Many parents are now struggling to adapt to a working from home situation while having the kids at home as well. It's not a vacation by any means. Therefore, it's important to remember that when we are making these calls, that we're asking things like, is this a good time? Or are you able to chat right now? Or would another time be better for you? We also need to remember that the current situation, and we need to be empathetic to that. So as you're reaching out to parents, make sure you're asking how they're doing. Share your concern. Remember that we are all in this together, and sometimes a phone call from someone you didn't know was in your corner can make all the difference during this time. So there's a list of parents to call, which means we can look through a few different lenses when deciding which parents to call. We can use our parental engagement report, which I know all of you know all about, and we will get into a little bit later on exactly how to pull that report, but this should be your first stop, making sure that you are calling and engaging the parents that have taken the time to fill out that report. Whitetail howler parents are really good if you need scouters to sign up for the next section up. And bluetail parents are great because now their beavers are not brand new to the program, so they have a really good idea of what's going on. So that's a really good time to engage parents and first-year parents. Now, when calling first-year parents, it might be a little more useful to call in order to simply engage the parent in their youth programming. So that includes things like asking for feedback, asking if the youth is enjoying the program, asking if they intend on re-registering for next year, and if they don't intend on doing that, ask why. So once all these questions have been answered, that might make it a really great time to ask the parents if they'd be interested in helping out next year if they are re-registering. So even on a part-time or kind of micro-volunteering basis, kind of get their foot in the door. So when we're talking to these parents, keys to, or anybody really, when we're looking at recruiting volunteers, there's a few easy things that we can do that kind of sound like common sense, but you'd be surprised. So keys to successful recruitment. The first thing is, of course, ask. So you may think that this is self-evident that we need volunteers, but you'd be surprised how many parents don't know that. There's a lot of power in asking one-on-one. So you may have parents who would love to get involved if only they knew that the group wanted them specifically. Speaking of specifics, get specific. Volunteer is not a specific description of a job. All that it means is that someone isn't being paid for their time. So therefore, if you put out a general call for volunteers, no one exactly knows what you mean. As well as specific jobs, point to the specific skills that parents will need for the job. Because we as an organization are willing to teach parents how to do scouting, make sure you mention that. Otherwise, parents may remove themselves from the running if they don't know how to do the tasks that you're describing. Focus on their benefits, not your needs. It's easy to focus on the group's needs. We all do this. But this cannot be the central story of the phone call. We need help, may be true, or the ever popular, our Cub Pack will not, it will close if we don't have more volunteers. But it doesn't make the most compelling case for volunteering. Instead, focus on what the volunteers gain by giving their time. What do you gain by giving your time? Making a difference, using your skills and talents for good, bonding with their children and witnessing their child's development, helping others, meeting others in their community, professional development, the list goes on and on. So really draw from your own experience as well in enticing people to join. The next is easy and nice. You have all signed up to volunteer for Scouts Canada. Is it easy? Are there clear steps to take? Are the people you encounter friendly and helpful? If the parent does express an interest in volunteering with you, follow up quickly. This is absolute key. Even if it's just to say thanks, we'll get back to you soon. You want them to know how much you appreciate their interest, so do not leave them hanging. The next is provide opportunities for different levels of engagement. So some parents will be ready to take on a part-time job level of volunteering, while others will be looking for something to do once a month or a couple times a year. Maximize the number of volunteers you can appeal to by providing opportunities to help at different levels of commitment. Make it clear in your volunteer pitch that you have opportunities for different levels of commitment. This helps people understand that they can be as involved as they want to be. And I will also note, this is a very important lesson to learn too. If someone has a positive experience doing a small volunteer assignment for your group, they are more likely to consider getting involved in the future. So I mentioned the parental involvement report before, but the parental involvement report should be your first stop in identifying parents that are interested in helping. A properly managed parental involvement report can be a huge asset to your search for new Scouters and volunteers. The parental involvement report lists every parent, their child, and the boxes that they checked off as their interests when registering. So when the parent's registering, some questions are asked to them as to what their interests are, what they would be willing to help with, and they most answer those questions. So it's right off the bat a really great resource for you. You should check this report during registration periods to see if parents are interested in volunteering. So there is actually a column that says interested in being a full-time Scouter. The key to getting the most out of this report is to reach out to the parents, like I said earlier, as soon as you can. That means monitor the report regularly and make sure that, there we go. That means monitor the report regularly and make sure that someone in your group is actually reaching out to thank the parents for their offer to help. This can be a role all in itself. If you have a parent that's really good on the phone, have them reach out to people and just to simply do that, say thank you. And we'll get back to you as soon as we have something for you to do, basically. If you don't have a place for their particular offer of help right away, you should still reach out to thank them and let them know that you will get in touch when you have something planned that would interest them. Remember, if the parent has great experiences with these small interactions and bite-sized duties, they are more likely to offer to come back and help more. Parents often think that they need to be a skilled global adventurer in order to get involved with Scouting, but there are multiple roles to be played. Do they have first aid knowledge? Are they good with numbers? Handy in the kitchen? Maybe they're a do-it-yourself magician. Perhaps they checked off some of the involvement categories on their child's registration, the parental involvement report. Whether they help out on a regular basis or just at special events or camps, there is an important role for parents to play. On the defined roles for parents resource are a series of roles that parents can fill. These will help you get started on engaging parents and identifying how they can participate in their child's great, safe Scouting adventures. This resource shows you the screening requirements for popular parent helper roles. And no, they don't all require the full screening process. So let me see, did I skip this? No, perfect. An incredibly useful tool, now kind of going into the virtual volunteer part, an incredibly useful tool, the volunteer job ad description helps your volunteer recruitment efforts. And it also helps the management of that volunteer and retaining him or her. So setting expectations with a job description should be the job number one for any volunteer manager, because not only are you expressing exactly what you're looking for in a volunteer before they apply, but it's also giving you a framework to be able to manage that volunteer and set those clear expectations right from the get-go. Clarity is what every volunteer prefers. Before you even start recruiting volunteers, make a list of the jobs that you want them to perform and then describe those positions as clearly as you can. There are many ways to write the position description, but here are some areas that it should cover. It should always have a job title. A descriptive title gives the volunteer a sense of identity and helps salaried staff and other volunteers understand this particular role. Steer away from descriptions that have to do with pay. For example, why call the receptionist a volunteer receptionist? You don't say paid receptionist for a staff member. The next should be work location. Where will the individual be working? Can the work be done at home or on a particular site? There's lots of things in scouting that parents can help out from at home, or volunteers can help out from at home. Do you have a website? Do you have a YouTube channel? Do you have a Facebook page? There's lots of opportunity there. So you can recruit the person who might not want to travel or have personal transportation, but they feel comfortable applying for that. The purpose of the position. How will the volunteers' work affect our organization's outcome? How will it impact our mission? State the expected impact for both direct service and administrative assignments so that the volunteers understand how important they are to the organization. Responsibilities and duties, of course, explain the volunteer's position's specific duties and obligations. Be clear about this. State clearly what's expected of them. Qualifications, it pays to be really clear and concrete when listing qualifications for any volunteer position. Like I said, we are a great organization for professional development and training. We offer lots of opportunities for that kind of development. Make sure that that's in the job ad so that people aren't intimidated and think that there's no way that they could be of service. And of course, commitment expected. Be realistic. We've all heard the 1 hour a week. So how much time do you actually expect from the volunteer? So include length of service, hours per week, hours per day, that kind of thing, and include any special requirements such as weekend work as well. And then obviously training, make sure to talk about the great training programs that we have here at Scouts Canada. The last thing, always please make sure to include your contact information. Remember, going back to the slides before, make it easy and nice. So now shifting a little bit, because of our new situation with the virtual world that we're exploring and experiencing right now, we need to remember that volunteers don't look like they did yesterday. Yesterday's volunteer programs were designed for a totally different world. It was a totally different world weeks ago, let alone years ago. It worked great back then. Volunteer managers who still operate like they did in the 20th century are managers who keep asking the same questions, and we hear them all the time. Where have all the volunteers gone? Why aren't people as committed as they used to be? What's wrong with these young people? Why are people so busy these days? At times we find ourselves asking the same questions, but contrary to what many of us might feel, plenty of volunteers in the 21st century are willing to get involved. In actuality, a whole arena of new volunteers exists who will get involved and be committed to our organization, but they'll become involved according to their rules, not ours. The new breed of volunteer in the 21st century is very busy. They have multiple obligations and they often volunteer actually for multiple organizations. Flexibility is key nowadays. We've all learned that in the last few weeks, that flexibility is really something that is necessary for families and adults nowadays. They expect to be empowered. They expect to be trusted and empowered and left to be creative and to contribute in their own way. They won't tolerate working alongside incompetent volunteers. That's more meaning they won't put up with so much drama. There's a new kind of it's getting ever more popular to walk away from, you know, toxic environments and things like that. People are paying more attention to their mental health, which is an excellent thing. But that just means that people won't tolerate a toxic environment anymore. So we need to make sure that we're managing, as group commissioners and as section scouters and as contact scouters, we're managing these relationships and making sure that it's not a toxic environment. They're tech savvy. We've all learned a lot in the last few weeks about technology. You know, we've had to adapt. So people are very tech savvy now. They don't want to simply make a contribution. The new breed of volunteer wants to make a difference. And there is a difference between those two things. They want to make sure that their morals and their compass is aligned with our mission. They want to make sure that what they are contributing to Scouts Canada is forwarding our mission, is impacting our mission. And as volunteers, we all know that it in fact is, but we need to make that clear, make sure that we are letting them know how they are doing that. And the last one is they don't want to be micromanaged. So that means that they do want that ability to kind of move throughout their role in their own way. So we need to expand our definitions of volunteers to include this kind of new breed of volunteer if we want to be successful in recruiting them. Another kind of avenue that we can go down when we're looking for volunteers is engaging our senior youth. This is a fine line to walk. So I do have a few pointers in engaging your senior youth, but the good news is Scouters age 14 to 17 is a great opportunity for youth volunteers who are looking for a leadership and service opportunity. So like adult Scouters, they do hold a position of trust and duty of care to younger children. Youth volunteers do count as ratio, and youth under the age of 18 that have completed all their volunteer screening criteria are considered to be adult Scouters for the purpose of the 2-Scouter rule. So they are treated just like an adult Scouter in that regard. However, I will give a small caveat here that these leadership opportunities should be a separate role from their programming. So we need to make sure that they're still being offered programming that allows them to be venturers or rovers, and that their whole programming isn't just becoming a Scouter in another section. And that's just good practices for keeping them engaged as well. So we do have a proven tactic for virtual volunteer recruitment, and this is a really great example. So Mike Eibel from Battlefields, Council Commissioner, got really creative in helping Trishore's council find a council commissioner. So they went a really long time, and they weren't getting a lot of people applying for the role, and they've struggled for over a year to find the right council commissioner. So Mike tested a new tactic to engage their members, and what he did was he created a really fun Ask Me Anything video as a council commissioner, and he engaged people, and he asked them, or he put that out there, and he allowed them to ask questions about his role. He allowed them to ask questions about his life balance with the position, and things like that. And it actually worked. So here's why it worked. It worked because it's not an email. It's concise. It was really fun. He had his daughter help, and it's a really engaging video. It doesn't try to sell it all in one shot. He actually invited folks to go to a Zoom call for more details. He was really approachable in that way. If anyone has met Mike, he's a very approachable guy and loves to talk scouting. And his enthusiasm is really contagious. It shows nonverbal communication through video, and it's not technically difficult to do. So the bottom line is it works. He generated 100 clicks of the video. He generated 30 views of the job description for the council commissioner, and they received 8 applicants after a year of not receiving applicants for this role. So kudos to Mike. And what we're kind of urging you to try is to try this tactic out. We definitely will be for council roles, for future council roles, but get creative, really sell your group, get people excited to join. So create a video featuring a person that already is in the role that you're recruiting for. For example, have one of your section scouters create a video explaining the role and why they absolutely love what they do. That human approach to volunteer recruitment can really be impactful, and I bet we'll be amazed at how many clicks you'll get. So utilize your Facebook channel or your Facebook page or your YouTube channel or whatever way you have. Create a really fun video that's promoting your group and talking about all your wonderful volunteers and what it's like to volunteer, and post it. And I bet we're going to see some really, really cool results with that. Okay, I think, Justin, is this on to you?
It is.
Perfect. All right.
What I'll talk about first is volunteer recruitment tips and tricks. You want to approach your volunteer recruitment as a creative activity and one that may involve some degree of trial and error. There's no one right answer that fits everyone, but the one tried and true approach is to continually engage in conversations with people. If you're not shy to engage in a two-way conversations, you are on the right path off the get-go. You want to think about, thank you. So you want to think about a volunteer opportunity that can offer that you can offer rather than what you need from a volunteer, such as new skills, being with others, fun, an opportunity to make a difference or contribute to a cause that they believe in. You also want to know what you and your group have to offer to bring on a new volunteer. This includes making sure you have time to onboard them, enthusiasm, life skills, work skills, or a passion about the cause. Why do you do what you do? That will help encourage folks to understand what they may want to get out of their volunteer experience, having that connection to someone. Research other volunteer opportunities. Find out what other worthy causes are doing for recruitment by searching the internet through media, television, radio, newspaper, looking in the yellow pages, contacting organizations, and asking your friends and family that work for other organizations. Knowing what they're doing means that you don't have to reinvent the wheel, and you can and are jumping off points for you to be able to use to recruit your volunteers. Next slide. Find out what the volunteer hopes to get out of their time and match that to the requirements and skills needed. Like Kate had spoken about, some folks won't want to volunteer full-time or part-time. They're looking for a micro experience, volunteering for an hour here or an event there. And so you want to make sure that you get to understand what they want to commit their time to and match that to your annual calendar of events. When you help to develop a plan to get the most out of the experience, this will help be a win-win opportunity for both the volunteer and your group. The volunteer ultimately decides how much time they can offer towards volunteering. Think about your schedule of activities and what type of opportunities are available, from committee members to section scouters or a parent helper. Volunteering with a friend or someone that they have established a relationship with helps a new volunteer acclimatize and learn from others. Ask your current volunteers if they have someone they think may be interested in being part of your group and reach out. Having a connection in the group that isn't just you as a GC or another section scouter is critical for somebody that hasn't volunteered with your group before. If they know someone there or feel connected to the group, especially from the get-go, they're more apt to either want to volunteer for more opportunities or to stick around for the long term. Next slide. Remember, it can take up to 3 asks before a no turns into a yes. So don't be discouraged. Just because you've asked a parent to volunteer for one thing and they say no, they might not have time for it at that time. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't go back and ask that parent again, because eventually they may say yes to something that fits within what they're looking for, what you're looking for, and the time commitment that they have available. So next we're going to talk about virtual recruitment resources, the where and the how for low to no cost recruiting. You know, we all have been there asking ourselves, how do we find volunteers? I like to look at it as a puzzle that I have to put together, and the volunteers are the missing pieces. They are out there. They just don't know the opportunity exists yet. Sometimes you have to cast a wide net in order to find those volunteers, but the effort can definitely pay off. Let's look at low to no cost options to recruit volunteers. These include, websites like charityvillage.com. There is a fee in order to post your job postings there, but this is where a lot of folks that are looking to get into the nonprofit sector and volunteer opportunities go as a hub to look for those. So although there is a fee, it can definitely pay off for very credible, competent volunteers that are in it for the long haul. Employee or employer-driven volunteer programs. Many companies have employee volunteer programs and support other that can support organizations on many levels. For every hour that they volunteer, they may receive an hour of loo time or a day of loo time. And so understanding that that can be a win-win for you and for them in a volunteer opportunity. And these are potentially those parents that are bringing their youth, or aunts and uncles of the youth, or folks that are even within your circle. You also want to look at volunteer fairs, displays, and educational forums such as the Youth Expo that happens in Brookfield, Nova Scotia every year. It sees over 2,500 youth come out. It's $50 to set up an exhibit, and it's for one full day. Who knows the types of volunteers from youth to adults that you could find at this volunteer Youth Expo? You can go to university job fairs, career fairs, volunteer fairs, or universities also have job boards or volunteer recruitment events. Every university and college has a free online job board that you as an organization or as a group just needs to sign up for. It takes about 20 minutes, and then you can post for free any job ad that you have, completely free, and you're reaching all of those students at that university. Next slide. Sometimes you want to look for course-specific college programs or even high school programs that have a community service component, like recreation management, education, child and youth care, because those folks are looking for, at least a year commitment or a term commitment in order to volunteer. They get a mark out of it, and you can also get them as a volunteer for that time. You also want to look for social networking sites. Social media is becoming one of the fastest and most extensive networking tools for engagement, especially for youth and students, because they are looking for ways to beef up their resumes and experiences. Put it out there through your Facebook page, Instagram, LinkedIn page, and see what happens. If you don't have social media for your group specifically, look at developing that opportunity within your group committee. Not only could you look for volunteers this way, but you could find a volunteer to run these sites as a volunteer opportunity within your group, so that way it doesn't just fall onto you as the group commissioner. You also want to look for community websites. More and more websites are popping up with a focus on unique and diverse communities and how you can get involved, such as Volunteer Halifax. Next slide. Look at career counseling or employment centers and programs. A great resource within HRM for engaging youth or engaging folks that are looking for employment, or newcomer programs or integration programs, are through the YMCA and the immigrant, I always flub on this, Kate, or ISANS, which is the Immigrant Services Association of Nova Scotia.
Nice.
And our, thanks, recovered, and are great organizations to connect with. You also want to look for volunteers, parents, and donors, and others who are connected to you or your group. Local government offices that have volunteer centers attached to them, chambers of commerce, or boards of trade. They also have opportunities for local folks that want to get involved, from your MLA to anyone else that work for them. Newspapers and mass marketing websites such as Kijiji. Some folks don't think that Kijiji is a viable source, but for no cost, you can upload a job posting, casting that wide net. Who knows, someone may be one day looking for an opportunity and they come across yours.
And on Kijiji, you can upload your amazing video of your scouter talking about how wonderful it is being a scouter, because Kijiji lets you upload videos too.
Exactly. Yeah. The next thing that we'll talk about is the virtual welcome. So once you've looked for those volunteers, found hopefully some volunteers, you also want to make sure that you're embracing them and that virtual welcome for volunteers and the families that they may come from. As we navigate our new virtual reality, we can use it to our advantage in creative ways, especially to garner excitement. One way to do this is to facilitate a virtual welcome, whether live using a video platform like Skype or Microsoft Teams, or pre-recorded, one-on-one or as a large group. These can be used to attract prospective families or connect with new and returning families, especially if you're looking for volunteers. Benefits of a virtual welcome can include engaging families in a face-to-face and interactive way. It's easier to match schedules and timing when you're having, during the welcome, to be able to follow up and say, hey, thanks so much for chatting with me. I actually have a volunteer opportunity that I'd like to talk to you about. These can be facilitated anywhere at any time. It can also be live, like I said, or pre-recorded and showcase you, your section scouters, and your current youth. You also could pre-record a tour of the space that you use, but it's a really great way to be able to showcase what folks are being part of and how to garner that excitement so that hopefully you can have some parent helpers or section scouters that come out of these newer prospective families. I've included a link to 2 pre-recorded YouTube videos that I helped make with a GoPro camera. Some really keen camp staff with technical know-how and an afternoon or two helped me out. But outside of initially purchasing a GoPro camera, the videos didn't cost anything but time. You certainly do not have to go to this length, but I wanted to give an idea to what is possible to engage families. Don't worry about writing down the addresses, as I'll provide them in the link below or sent out in an email. Yeah, and as well as included in this recorded virtual learning session. But the first one is called Power of Camp. It's a tour of camp facilities as well as testimonials from the camp staff that was sent out as a recruitment tool for camp counselors, but could easily be used to recruit volunteers, and was also used at volunteer and employment fairs at universities. The second one, Tour of Camp Whiteshell, is a virtual tour of the camp facilities and some of the activities. As part of the camp experience, campers went on a backcountry wilderness trip, either hiking or canoeing, so we also showcased that. We wanted to garner excitement so that when folks came to the camp, they kind of knew what was on the go or could start to ask questions about what would happen or what could happen. Again, you don't have to go to this length, but if you do, it can definitely be worth the time and investment that you put into it. Okay, so
yeah, so we hope that this was helpful. Like we say, we are all trying to adapt to our new circumstances. We are working very hard in kind of bringing you resources that are going to help with this new reality. And we're also working to bring you resources that are going to help accommodate this kind of new way of scouting as fast as we can. So here's what we wanted to give you a bit of an update on what we are working on and what will be available to you. We're working on a virtual welcome kit, which is going to be, as Justin was just speaking of, a way to really give you all the resources you need in order to create a warm welcome to new youth, new parents, new scouters, volunteers, and returning members. So it's going to be a one-stop shop for that for you. we're working on some kits for you, which are going to be resources that are going to have everything you need to run a virtual parent info night, or a virtual bring a friend night, or a virtual bring a family night, around a kind of a campfire idea. So those kits are going to be available to you soon as well. Finally, we're working on some templates that are going to be fun. They're going to be fun communication tools to kind of make your emails stand out, because as we all know, everyone is getting inundated with emails these days, and it's becoming the most popular form of communication. So we're going to build you some templates that make it really easy for you to communicate with your parents and scouters, but also make them stand out in a fun way. That's not an exhaustive list. We are trying to stay current. We are working very hard to make sure that you are supported, that your group is supported, and then as soon as scouting can return to its wonderful ways of in-person scouting, that your group is ready for it, that your group is supported, and that you have everything you need to do that. Yeah. So on that note. I think we're gonna skip that one. Yeah. So on that note, I would like to thank you all for joining us and for watching this video. We hope to have a lot more to come. We have some amazing summer series sessions planned where we're going to tackle some section scouter requests that are more geared towards. We have some coming up on general behavior management. We have some coming up on working with youth with exceptionalities, inclusiveness. There's going to be some really, really awesome ones coming up in the summer, so they will be posted on this YouTube channel as well. And especially if you can't make the live sessions. And yeah, Justin, do you have anything to add?
No, thank you so much for tuning in, and if you ever have any questions or concerns from this video or in general, don't hesitate to reach out to your local council or your scouting relationship manager. We're happy to chat with you to make sure that you and your group are successful, and the volunteers that come into your group help to move your group forward. So thank you again.
Awesome. Thanks so much, and have a great day. There we go. I can